What is up, everybody? It is Jacob here for the Nerd Express, and I'm back here again talking about the MCU. Today, we will be ranking the MCU movies from worst to best. We will be starting off at number one and then ending off at number 20, 20 being the best and number one being the worst. I don't know why I'm doing that. That's just the way I listed them whenever I made the list, and I really don't feel like going back and changing it, so one's going to be the worst today. So let's just hop straight into it. For our number one category for our number one on the worst MCU movie, it has to be Thor: The Dark World. The reason I put Thor: The Dark World as the worst is because the way they handled the ether and the way they handled the dark elves was just not entertaining at all. It was so dark and grim. It almost like Batman v Superman. It was awful. It was very I wouldn't say very poorly made because I don't think we've had a MCU movie to date that's been poorly made, but I feel like the script was very bland. It didn't have very much oomph to it like other Marvel movies we've seen. But moving on to number two. Remember, one's the worst, 20's the best. I don't know why I'm doing that. But number two would be Iron Man 2. Iron Man 2, I just did not like how they handled Tony Stark's story. I just don't feel again like it was very entertaining. I wasn't a fan of it at all. Remember, these are just my opinions. You can have your own opinion, but this is just what I think of the Marvel universe right now. For number three, I have Avengers: Age of Ultron. Before I get into any of that, I have all the Rotten Tomato scores for all the movies up here. So let me just go back and read those off. For Thor: The Dark World, it had a 66% Rotten Tomato score and a 76% audience score. For Iron Man 2, it had a 73% Rotten Tomato score and a 71% audience score. And for Avengers: Age of Ultron, it had a 75% Rotten Tomato score and an 83% audience score. But the reason I put Avengers: Age of Ultron at number three is because Ultron as a villain himself was not as I it's not one of Marvel's strongest that they've ever had. It's He didn't reel you in as somebody that felt like um terrifying. He didn't scare you. I mean, there was really no threat. I mean, they tried to give you that there was a huge gigantic threat, but really a city falling from the sky. I mean, we could have done better than that, and you could have handled Ultron better than that. In the comics, he was a really terrifying villain. He in the comics, he's the Avengers, one of the Avengers' main villains, and one of the main baddies that give them insane amounts of trouble. But you see Iron Man being able to hold him off for like 20 minutes while everybody else is doing their own. And it didn't take that much at all to be able to take him down. It really wasn't hard at all. I just don't feel like they handled Ultron correctly. But again, his Age of Ultron's Rotten Tomato score was 75%, and its audience score was 83%. And number four, I have Iron Man 3. The reason I put Iron Man 3 at number four is because I did not like how they handled the Mandarin. Um, since Iron Man 1 had come out, I had always been a fan of comics, and I was waiting to see how they would handle the Mandarin, Iron Man's main villain. And I was really intrigued whenever we got to see the first person in the movie that was supposedly Mandarin. I was like, holy crap, this guy's awesome. He's playing him correctly. This is really cool. And then with the stupid twist we got with him not really being the Mandarin, with him just being, just there, it was. I did not like that twist at all. Its Rotten Tomato score was 80%, and its audience score was 78%. For number five, I have Thor. The reason I put Thor at number five is because I don't feel like its foundation was very strong. And what I mean by that, I just don't feel like it reeled the audience in. I mean, the first two Thor movies, in my opinion, were some of the weakest of the MCU's movies because, I don't know, Chris Hemsworth hadn't unlocked his full potential. And I'm not saying that's his fault, I'm saying that's the script's fault. The dialogue was choppy, it wasn't well written. I don't know what was going on in there. And its Rotten Tomato score was 77%, and its audience score was 76%. For number six, I have Ant Man and the Wasp. I wasn't able to watch this in theaters because I didn't have the money to go. You don't got the money, you don't get the money. But Ant Man and the Wasp just didn't do it for me. It didn't have the same appeal as other movies have had in the past. It felt like it was very rushed, and it felt like it wasn't very well. I can't say it wasn't very well put together because I don't know, the storyline in it was really hard to grasp. And I mean, I'm not saying it was like too complicated. I'm just saying I couldn't believe it. I don't know how to uh explain that. It's just it didn't hook me like other ones had. And its Rotten Tomato score was 88% and its audience score was 78%. For number seven, I have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 I enjoyed, and that's only because I enjoy Chris Pratt and I enjoy uh, Vin Diesel, and I enjoy Groot, Vin Diesel. But as a movie, it didn't feel like it fit in with the first one, and again, it was very rushed. Ego didn't feel like a full-hearted character. His intentions were correct from the movie, but they didn't show it off in a good way. I don't know. It didn't hook me like I've said for the past ones. And its Rotten Tomato score was 84%, and its audience score was 87%. For number eight, I have Captain America Civil War. And like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, I enjoyed Captain America Civil War. I thoroughly enjoyed it because, it had almost everybody in it. It should have been named The Avengers 2.5. But towards the end, we got to hear what Zemo's plan was, and Zemo's plan was insanely complicated. It was like the Joker's plan in Batman: The Dark Knight. It had to have a lot of things go right in order for it to work, and it had to have a lot of things go right that Zemo couldn't have predicted in any way, and that was just like, oh, we need this to happen, so Iron Man can figure this out. Oh, let's just have that happen randomly. He had to have all three, Captain America, Iron Man, and Black Panther, come to the uh um place at once at the end of the movie. I can't remember what it was called, and that just was unprecedented, and you couldn't have predicted that. So I felt like they just shoehorned in a lot of excuses on why this needed to happen. But again, I enjoyed it up until that part of the movie. But its Rotten Tomato score was 91%, and its audience score was 89%. And for number nine, I have The Incredible Hulk, which again was a movie I really enjoyed. But Edward Norton wasn't the best fit for the MCU. I don't know what Kevin Feige was thinking with that casting decision. I have no idea, but I'm just really happy they got rid of Edward Norton. But the Incredible Hulk story could have been really, really, really good if they had better casting. I didn't like Liv Tyler in it at all. I don't think she was ever meant to be an actress. Oh my god. And the guy who played Mr. Green, he was okay, but he wasn't the correct fit for that character. He's not supposed to be insanely comedic, and I don't know. I liked the Incredible Hulk, but if you go back and watch it, you can see all the things that were wrong with it, and then I don't know. Its Rotten Tomato score was 67%, and its audience score was 70%. For my number 10 on this list, I have Ant Man, and Ant Man, I wasn't really sure about. I wasn't a fan, but I also didn't hate it. It wouldn't be a movie that I would go back and rewatch uh, because I don't have any other movie to watch. It wouldn't be that for me because I like Paul Rudd and I feel like they did a good casting decision with Paul Rudd. but I don't like how they handled the villain in it. Yellow Jacket was not well casted, um, and the villain dialogue was very choppy and very unwell written. I don't know. There's just seemed to be a lot of dialogue issues in MCU movies, and that's the only thing that like off makes them off-putting to me. But its Rotten Tomato score was 82%, and its audience score was 86%. And for number 11, I have Doctor Strange. And again, I thoroughly enjoyed Doctor Strange. I felt like it was a really well put together movie. I feel like it was very well written. But I honestly, this is just a choice that I liked Doctor Strange, but I couldn't find uh, a place to put it in up higher on the list because there were so many other great movies that outranked Doctor Strange. I like Doctor Strange. There are problems in it that I don't know how to say yet because I haven't like actually picked them out. But its Rotten Tomato score was 89%, and its audience score was 86%. For number 12, I have Guardians of the Galaxy. And the reason I put Guardians of the Galaxy at number 12 is because I liked the story, but I didn't like how they did Ronan. Ronan was not well put together in the movie. His dialogue again was not well written. He didn't feel intimidating. He felt like if you had Star Lord standing right there, like in the end of the movie, you could have literally just stood there with the. I don't know. As somebody who knew the Guardians of the Galaxy's past before the movie, I didn't really care for Ronan. They didn't do him very well. His service was definitely not paid in that movie. And Guardians of the Galaxy's Rotten Tomato score was 91%, and its audience score was 92%. For number 13, I have Captain America: The First Avenger. Again, I thoroughly enjoyed Captain America and the First Avenger. It needed to be somewhat as a catalyst for the MCU, like Iron Man was, but less of sort as a catalyst, like Iron Man. Because if Captain America didn't work out, the whole Avengers project wasn't going to work out. And I mean, it would have worked out, but it wouldn't have had as many good comings as it would have if it hadn't have. But with I didn't again, most of these movies that have me on the fritz are the villains. I wasn't a fan. I mean, I liked Red Skull. Don't get me wrong, but his intentions were just weird, and you couldn't keep a track of them throughout the entire movie. And I liked Red Skull. I liked how Hugo Weaving played him. I liked his dialogue. I liked everything except for his intentions in the movie. They were way too complicated. For Captain America: The First Avenger, their Rotten Tomato score was 80%, and their audience score was 74%. At number 14, I have Spider-Man: Homecoming. I liked Spider-Man: Homecoming. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed its story. It's this one's kind of like Doctor Strange. It's a good movie, but I couldn't find a place higher up on the list to put it because all the other movies that I'm getting ready to say, in my opinion, were better than it. I really enjoyed Spider-Man: Homecoming, and I hope you enjoyed it. Its Rotten Tomato score was 92%, and its audience score was 89%. For number 15, I have Thor: Ragnarok. And the reason I put Thor Ragnarok at number 15 is because it was very well put together. Its intentions were very well thought through, but I don't know the way they made Sakaar. I wasn't a huge fan of. If you go back and watch Planet Hulk, if you've ever seen Planet Hulk, the way they made Sakaar in that movie was more I felt enjoyable and the more entertaining it was to me. I liked the whole aspect of Planet Hulk not having a choice to compete and that he didn't like competing in Planet Hulk. But in Thor Ragnarok, Hulk was a huge fan of competing. He loved the attention he got from it, and he loved everything about it. And that's not how it played out in the comics. He wasn't a huge fan. He was not a fan at all of being captive. So I felt like they strayed away from the comics a whole bunch in that movie. But don't get me wrong, I loved the movie in every other place but Sakaar. It was the setting that made that movie a little off putting for me. And its Rotten Tomato score was 92%, and its audience score was 87%. For number 16, I have The Avengers. And like Spider Man Homecoming and Doctor Strange, The Avengers is put at number 16 because I couldn't find a space to put it any higher. I loved The Avengers. I loved what they did with The Avengers. I loved Loki. Loki is my all time favorite. Uh, Thor's a very close, I mean, not Thor. Thanos is a very close second, but I loved Loki. Loki is still my all time favorite villain, and his actions, as horrible as they were understood, and you got a very well read on the character in this movie more than you got in Thor. And that's another reason why I didn't like Thor. They didn't use Loki to his full potential. But in the Avengers, we got to see Loki at full form. It was just freaking awesome. I loved the movie. Its Rotten Tomato score was 92%, and its audience score was at 91%. And for number 17, I have Iron Man. And here we have the very first movie in the MCU. I loved this movie. I thought this movie was really, really well written, really well directed. I think Jon Favreau did an amazing job catapulting the MCU into what it is today. And the only thing that I have a problem with is the way Jebediah was in the movie. I really liked him as a villain, but again, the dialogue for Jebediah was just horrible, very choppy. It was like one of those things, oh, I will destroy you. You're no match for me. It was just one of those choppy. It was that that's one of my major deciding points in this because I love most of the MCU movies and I like all of the MCU movies. But that's why I have to go onto these little nitpicky things to be able to decide on their placement. But I loved the movie. I would always go back and rewatch the movie. And one of the main reasons I love the movie is because without that, it was Iron Man came out right after Marvel went bankrupt. If Iron Man had flopped, no one would. I don't know. It was a huge step forward for Marvel, and without it, Marvel would be nothing as what it is today. So that I thank for Iron Man, and I love Robert Downey Jr. for that aspect. For its Rotten Tomato score, it is at 93%, and for its audience score, it is at 91%. And at number 18, I have Black Panther. I got to see this on the very last day it was in theaters, and I absolutely loved it. I loved the fact that we got to see God damn it, I can't remember his name. He was the secondary villain that he was in Avengers Age of Ultron, and he was in Iron Man 2, I believe. God dang it, I can't remember his name. Killmonger. No, that was the real villain. God damn it. I can't remember his name, but I bet you guys can remember his name. I liked that we got to see him return, and I liked how we got to see the end of his story right up until he died. And Killmonger is my third favorite villain in the MCU. It might actually be above Thanos, so he might be my second or my third. I don't know how to rank them yet. But Killmonger was very well developed in this movie, and it was very well written. I liked his dialogue; it wasn't choppy at all. It's his relationship with T'Challa really helped the story move forward. His plans were his intentions were very well thought out. It made sense. I loved the movie. Its Rotten Tomato score was 97%, and its audience score was 79%, which I don't know why, because that movie was fantastic. For number 19, I have Avengers: Infinity War, and I'm gonna geek out a little bit as to why I'm putting that at Avengers I'm going to geek out a little bit as to why I'm putting it at the second place spot. The reason it is at our second place spot, it is because it is the first part of the entire culmination of a decade worth of Marvel busting their asses trying to make amazing movies for us. Its story might have not been as strong as Black Panther's or Iron Man's or some of these other high listers I have, but I had to geek out a whole bunch because of we got to see Guardians of the Galaxy and the Avengers team up in one amazing fight, and I'm just super excited. There goes the mic. I'm an idiot. And I'm just super excited to see how everything ends in Avengers Endgame, and I just can't wait. Can't wait to see it. Its Rotten Tomato score was 85%, and its audience score was 91%. And finally, for my all-time favorite MCU movie at number 20, I have Captain America: The Winter Soldier. And a lot of you might disagree with me on this one. It was very iffy on if people liked it or not, but I loved the movie. I thought the movie was very well put together. I thought the twist with with Hydra being a part of Shield was really cool because I mean, if you're a comic reader, you knew that and you knew Bucky was going to be the Winter Soldier, but they had a way of telling it in the movie that still made you be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe it," even though you knew what was going to happen from the comics. I've always had to give praise to Captain America: The Winter Soldier. That is my all-time favorite Captain America movie, and it stands above all, in my opinion, of all the other movies put together. The Shield twist was amazing because the Shield twist impacted the entire MCU and impacted some of the Shield of the Marvel's Agents of Shield TV series. Again, always loved the movie, and I will always give it praise for the massive leap it did. Um, it, um, I don't know what I'm doing. Its Rotten Tomato score was 89%, and its audience score was 92%. All right, so that is my list of all the best from the. That is my list of the MCU movies from worst to best. I hope some of you agree with me, and even if you don't, I'm really glad you don't agree with me because that means you have your own opinion and you're a very avid MCU watcher and you're a very avid Marvel and you like Marvel, you like comics, you like all that stuff. So if you have a different list for me that you would like to show me, and maybe I can take your decisions into account, or maybe you just want to argue with me and debate, you can put your list in the comments below, or you can DM us on Instagram. The Instagram is the Nerd Express, all lowercase, the nerd underscore space the underscore nerd underscore express, and we even have a Snapchat now. The Snapchat for us is all lowercase, the Nerd Express 3, the number 3, not like written out as 3, the Nerd Express 3. And our website is up and running now. I can't remember the exact URL for it, but I will put all of our social medias and our website in the description below so you all can check that out. I would like to thank you all for watching, and I hope you all have an amazing day, and I hope you all enjoyed. Just keep watching. Hopefully you'll watch the next video, and I hope you all have an amazing day. Hope you all have a good day, and this has been Jacob with the Nerd Express. Have a good day, everybody. I've said that way too many times, but bye.